Action!
I mean, I am very single and ready to mingle.
They held family meetings over parking spots. But Cody marrying Robin? No discussion. One of the most baffling moments in the Brown family's timeline wasn't a dramatic explosion. It was the complete absence of one.
I am divorcing Cody. I noticed that Janelle was not saying anything.
When Mary legally divorced Cody so he could marry Robin, a decision that effectively rewrote the core structure of their plural marriage, the response from the other wives was little more than a collective shrug.
Like I needed a spiritual divorce from Mary.
This wasn't some minor adjustment. It was a foundation-altering shift in legal standing, inheritance, family dynamics, and yet it happened with barely a murmur. No full group meeting, no honest reckoning.
I just had an appointment with the lawyer.
Just a quiet, matter-of-fact rollout. Mary steps down, Robin steps in. Done deal. The irony is hard to ignore. This is a family that has hosted lengthy, often excruciating group discussions about holiday plans, bedroom schedules, and who parked in the wrong driveway. But the legal dismantling of a central marriage that apparently didn't warrant a real conversation.
Mary came to me saying, we need to just do this divorce on papers.
The decision was treated less like a seismic event and more like updating a utility bill. Janelle looked vaguely uncomfortable. Christine, visibly rattled, kept her reaction restrained, likely understanding that objecting would risk even further emotional distance from Cody, who, at the time, still heavily favored Robin. Janelle, still on relatively good terms with Cody, had just enough leeway to voice mild concern without tipping the balance. And still, the shift was monumental, not just emotionally, but legally.
We want this legal marriage to not matter, all of us do.
Janelle later made it clear that her primary concern was the future. Specifically, who would make decisions if something happened to Cody? Her trust, interestingly, was in Mary. Despite a historically strained relationship, she believed Mary would act fairly. Robin? Not so much. This distinction speaks volumes. Janelle and Mary may not have been close, but they understood each other. They weren't friends, but they were family. That truth manifested in small but meaningful ways.
I'm going to suggest to you that you protect your interests in it as far as what you're entitled to, a quarter of it.
Janelle advising Mary to protect her interests during the Coyote Pass discussions. Mary showing up for Janelle in the wake of family tragedy. There was no facade of closeness, only a steady current of loyalty.
My whole life seems to center around mine and Robin's household.
Contrast that with Robin, who, despite being elevated to legal wife status, never cultivated the same kind of mutual respect with the original wives. She was always set apart, and once the legal marriage was secured, that separation only deepened. Then came the turning point.
That she was going to be getting a lawyer. I'm like, we don't need to do that.
Mary, once trusted by Janelle, disclosed private legal matters to Cody and Robin. Specifically, that Janelle had consulted a lawyer. It wasn't just a breach of confidence. It was a betrayal, a deliberate act that underscored just how much the original bonds had frayed. The dynamic had shifted permanently. As for the argument that everyone knew, yes, technically the wives were told the legal switch was happening, but being told is not the same as being consulted. The decision had already been made. Christine offered a supportive hug. Janelle had a private conversation, but neither had any real influence over the outcome.
We left Utah in the middle of the night, out of fear.
Christine's agreement was rooted in fear, a deep, lifelong concern about the family being torn apart by government intervention. Agreeing was, for her, a form of self-preservation. Janelle, already well aware of Robin's special treatment, had long since understood the practical hierarchy of the family.
It seemed to me that when Mary offered up the legal divorce so that I could legally marry Robin,
the reality is simple. This wasn't a decision made by consensus. It was a top-down decree disguised as a benevolent gesture for the sake of adoption paperwork, a legal convenience masquerading as a family necessity.
I'm not positive I want to know when you guys do that.
And yet, no real confrontation ever followed. The emotional fallout was buried beneath platitudes and politeness. The wives absorbed it, just as they had absorbed so many other slights, betrayals, and imbalances over the years. This silence, more than anything, reveals the true dysfunction. The family structure wasn't built on equal partnership. It was built on managed perception.
I've got these other situations at different levels of discord.
And once the legal paperwork changed hands, that illusion became impossible to maintain. Cody Brown didn't just lose a son, he lost his humanity.
So it just is what it is.
Cody Brown's emotional radar seems calibrated to one frequency: self-preservation. He sheds more visible distress over failed marriages than over the death of his own son. Watching his reaction or lack thereof raises a question that's as disturbing as it is baffling. How does a parent experience such profound loss and carry on like it's business as usual?
I got another one of those emails from some woman.
The Sister Wives Season 20 trailer offers little in the way of reflection or grief. Instead, Cody's energy is poured into petty conflicts and musings about acquiring another wife. The triviality is staggering. His son is gone, his family is splintered, and the cameras roll on, as if the tragedy were just another plot twist in the saga.
Really where I'm at is Christine's happy, and that's great. Everybody's going to have a fun time.
Most people, faced with a loss that deep, would disappear. Grief doesn't lend itself well to reality TV polish, but Cody manages to look oddly composed, almost upbeat. Whether it's genuine or performance, the effect is jarring. Even pretending to be okay after losing a child should be nearly impossible. The ability to do so raises more concerns than admiration. The production behind all this, the network, the editing, the carefully chosen storylines, knows more than it lets on. Garrison's death is treated with an eerie minimalism, likely by design. Reports indicate that the family requested not to be asked about the loss during reunion specials, and the current season seems to follow suit. The result? A glossy detachment curated for continuity.
I wanted to apologize with all my heart.
That detachment isn't confined to grief. Cody's so-called apology tour is another curated performance, yet there's no indication that apologies extended to the children of his former wives, many of whom bore the brunt of his decisions and public comments. Similarly, Robin, whose role in the family's division remains conspicuous, has offered no acknowledgement of the distance she's enforced between her children and the others. Claims that the ex-wife's children wanted no relationship with her family went unchallenged, solidifying a narrative that left little room for reconciliation.
And basically I said, if you want to be in the family, then you have to understand, I need you to run your will to mine.
The fractures within this family didn't appear out of thin air. They were created, deepened, and reinforced by choices, many of them by Cody and Robin. While no one involved is without flaw, the roots of dysfunction are remarkably traceable. After 15 years on camera, filming has become routine. The show now reflects a controlled sliver of reality, selected and sanitized for consumption. Whatever grief exists, real or not, is kept mostly off-screen. Life moves forward, at least in the version edited for weekly episodes. Even Janelle, who also lost her son, remains involved in the production. No one is expected to display grief constantly, but the striking absence of any visible emotional reckoning from Cody feels unnatural. The silence is louder than any eulogy could be.
If Garrison and Gabriel can cease their social lives, then I can come home.
The unresolved relationships with his children suggest little has changed. The posture remains the same: distant, expectant, unbothered. The message is clear: if reconciliation is to happen, it must come to him.
To know actually my history, you've got to understand a little bit of Mormon history.
And when a worldview revolves around celestial rewards for multiplying wives and offspring, it's not surprising to see the emergence of a self-centered doctrine disguised as divine purpose. They weren't sister wives. They were silent enemies competing for the same man.
No, like we're just different people.
There are other wives that marry, for instance.
I know, I don't know
That's
how
been
she does
very
it.
clear.
If the women had ever discussed sex openly, the illusion of unity would have shattered instantly. It would have been glaringly obvious that Mary had been without intimacy for years.
Intimate with Mary right now.
A single candid question, "Are you truly happy in a sexless marriage?" could have changed everything.
you and I have intimacy.
A couple times a year doesn't work for a marriage.
When Christine felt neglected, she might have said, "I'm in a sexless marriage too, and I'm not okay," instead of dancing around the issue with vague concern over her sister wife's mood. Of course, that kind of honesty was never going to happen. The sisterhood these women claimed to embody was little more than clever branding. In reality, they were rival wives, linked not by affection or solidarity, but by shared proximity to a man whose mediocrity somehow became the center of a televised family empire.
And I would rotate that way. Mary wasn't in the rotation.
Everyone knew Cody had removed Mary from the rotation. He wasn't discreet. His absence from her home was all the evidence needed, and yet no one seemed bothered. Instead, they feigned confusion over why she remained in the picture, as if her suffering was a mystery rather than an open secret.
Cody and I are not in communication. Our relationship is over, but we both still live in Flagstaff.
When Cody withdrew physically from Christine, the fallout was public. She left him, and she said exactly why. She even addressed the camera directly, pointing out that he remained sexually involved with Robin and Janelle while she was effectively abandoned. The lack of reaction from the others was telling. They knew.
I know. That she has not been intimate with Cody for the last more than 10 years.
I know. I don't know how she...
Christine and Janelle made it clear they recognized the same treatment Mary had received. They didn't need a group therapy session to understand what was going on. Cody himself couldn't stop airing details. Silence wasn't ignorance, it was strategy.
I'd be 2 nights at Robin's and 2 nights at Janelle, and 2 nights at Robin and 2 nights at Janelle.
And then there was Robin. She had no reason to worry about Mary or Christine. They weren't threats. But Janelle? That was different. Robin understood that Janelle still held sway over Cody, still had the ability to redirect his attention. That made her nervous.
He wasn't in the rotation. Mary and I aren't in that kind of relationship. We're in a state of friendship.
These women weren't unaware. Whether or not they ever discussed it privately, the situation was transparent. Cody's absence from Mary's home wasn't subtle. His minimal time at Christine's was another red flag. Their relationships were no secret. That's precisely why Robin never saw Mary or Christine as competition. It's also why she kept close watch on Janelle.
Plural marriage is a struggle. It's a hard thing. I am not the head of this family.
The myth of the close-knit sister wives crumbles under scrutiny. What remained was a group of women locked in quiet competition, orbiting around a man who consistently failed to meet even the most basic emotional standards. And everyone involved, viewers included, could see it for what it was.
Never tell someone you're not attracted to them and then act surprised when they kick you out of the bedroom. By season 16 of Sister Wives, Christine is finally done pretending.
I know couples that don't have intimate marriages.
Cody has made it abundantly clear that he doesn't want a romantic relationship with her. He's said he's not attracted to her, dismissed emotional intimacy, and withdrawn entirely.
So we had one conversation on intimacy, and it was like, are we going to have any kind of intimacy, sex in our marriage? And he was like, no.
So when Christine tells him she doesn't want him in her bedroom anymore, his reaction? Genuine confusion. He looks blindsided, like this came out of nowhere. As if telling a woman you no longer desire her wouldn't lead her to close the door, both literally and figuratively.
He said, I'm not interested in having an intimate marriage anymore.
And when she asserts her boundaries, he mumbles, I guess I'm moved out. Yes, that's what happens when you make yourself emotionally and physically unavailable.
You're either in complying with our standard or I'm not coming around.
The root of his shock lies in entitlement. Cody didn't expect her to leave. He expected her to stay, to compromise, to try harder to win him back. His language suggests he thought Christine would change her behavior in hopes of rekindling his attraction, as though intimacy were a prize to be earned through submission. What he didn't expect was resistance. Christine chose dignity over desperation, and that's the real offense in his eyes. Not that she was unhappy, but that she stopped groveling.
I used to be anything you want, anything you say. I used to be that wife.
He was waiting for fawning. Instead, she gave him a door that finally closed. His sense of ownership ran deeper than affection. Even if he wasn't in love with Christine, she was still part of his structure, his house, his image, his control. The idea that she would take agency and walk away disrupted that worldview entirely. Had this occurred in a secluded polygamist environment without external influence, perhaps Christine would have stayed. Without exposure to alternatives, without financial independence, and without broader support systems, the outcome might have been different.
I think after we moved to Flagstaff, all of us were seeing fracture.
But this wasn't a closed system. The show, the scrutiny, and evolving relationships all chipped away at the isolation. Ironically, the very dynamic Cody and Robin cultivated, favoritism, exclusion, emotional distancing, backfired. By cutting the original wives out of the marital rotation, they created space for them to talk, reflect, and compare lives. That time together dismantled the fragile illusion that Cody had once maintained through selective attention and triangulation.
Kelty had her beautiful baby girl. She had her at home.
Eventually, the original wives saw what their children were building: healthy relationships, mutual respect, independence. Compared to what they had settled for, it was a revelation.
But I just don't know if we really work, because I don't feel like I ever would be on an equal playing ground.
Cody wanted to be wanted, not questioned. When Christine refused to beg, he lashed out. And when she left, he rewrote the narrative. Suddenly he never loved them anyway, and the betrayal was his to bear. The infamous knife in the kidneys era wasn't about heartbreak, it was about ego.
Love and this kind of experience, this kind of falling in love, having somebody she's just passionate about, somebody who's just digging on her.
Ultimately, this was never about love. It was about possession. Cody didn't value Christine as a partner. He valued her as part of his claim. Her decision to leave wasn't just a personal rejection. It was a dismantling of the power structure he thought was permanent. She left anyway, and in doing so proved that autonomy beats obligation every time. They claimed to be sober fundamentalists. Then came the whiskey bar. In season 19, during the scene where the family stops at a whiskey bar on the way to North Carolina,
Sitting here in this bar in Louisiana having a shot, and I'm like, wow, my life is about to really change.
the adults engage in a conveniently curated discussion about their relationship with alcohol. It's a bizarre moment of selective memory, particularly from Mary, who appears to have forgotten that visibly intoxicated live streams are not easily erased from public consciousness. The attempt to portray sobriety while prior behavior contradicts it so clearly is less a lie than a performance doomed by its own archives.
I'm not gonna post anything on social media because he's like, maybe we should post something.
This family has spent years broadcasting their lives across overlapping media platforms, many of which share the exact same audience that followed them from their original TV debut. The result? No separation, no plausible deniability. The digital record lingers, and so does the hypocrisy.
When I grew up in the church, we didn't drink alcohol, we didn't drink coffee.
The shift began with Robin's entrance into the family. Alongside the restructuring of internal dynamics came a quiet loosening of long-held lifestyle restrictions, alcohol among them. For context, the ban on alcohol was never a doctrinal cornerstone. Joseph Smith didn't canonize it. It was discouraged culturally but not strictly forbidden, and most fundamentalist offshoots today follow suit, allowing moderate alcohol use among adults. Janelle, raised in mainstream LDS tradition, continues to abstain. The others, however, appear to have embraced a more relaxed interpretation, though without the honesty to match.
Action! I mean, I am very single and ready to mingle, and you will never know if I get action.
Mary, in particular, frequently adopts a tone of sanctimony, claiming she refuses to spill the tea. The irony is rich. At this point, her commentary has been so revealing and so frequent that the metaphorical teacup has long since shattered. The contradiction is not just transparent, it's theatrical. This wasn't about money. It was about Mary doing something without permission. Mary was never going to find satisfaction in the other wives' involvement because she wasn't really seeking their support.
It's just, yeah, you just have all the emotions, and you just wonder when he's...
What she wanted, what she always wanted, was Cody's attention. And the fact that Cody knew about the closing on her house and just forgot to tell anyone else, that wasn't forgetfulness. That was apathy laced with quiet contempt.
These ladies are just dancing around the truth. just done.
Throughout every conversation on the topic, Cody made it abundantly clear that he couldn't care less. His disinterest was palpable, his tone dismissive. He didn't support the dream, didn't want to talk about it, and certainly didn't want her to have it, not without him.
It wasn't in the rotation.
So Mary's coldness toward the others wasn't about them at all. It was about him. But no one was going to say that out loud.
This is a 4 against 1 conversation.
The original 3 wives lived under an unspoken rule: criticize anyone but Cody. Then there's Robin, whose reflexive ability to make every situation revolve around her feelings deserves an award.
So, all right, Mary's coming in a minute, right?
Mary's gonna come in a minute, but
During the group discussion at Christine's, she waited until tensions boiled over before stepping in to announce she felt attacked. Classic deflection disguised as vulnerability. If there was a genuine issue, it could have been voiced earlier. But timing is everything when playing the misunderstood victim.
I don't know, but I want it now.
I'm gonna have to think about it because I need to.
In contrast, Janelle actually showed growth. Despite the emotional minefield, she made a clear effort to bridge the distance with Mary. For once, someone in the room wasn't operating from ego or defensiveness, and that alone stood out.
Suppose how you love a man is to respect him. And so I'm sitting here just appreciating where I'm at and who's with.
The real theme here has nothing to do with sisterhood or communication. It's about a dynamic where every wife was expected to orbit around one man. Their lives were built around earning Cody's time, attention, and approval, while the others were either background noise or competition.
Her buying this house in Parowan.
And when Mary chose to do something entirely on her own, like buying the Parowan house without involving Cody, suddenly it became a problem. Cody's frustration wasn't subtle. He didn't like that his name wasn't on the deed, which meant it wouldn't benefit the larger family, read himself. It was Mary's asset, hers alone, and that kind of autonomy was unforgivable.
Yet this wasn't a sudden impulse. Mary had wanted that house for years, just as Janelle had long wanted her RV.
We picked up this big RV, we're pulling it with the truck, and we're going to go over and park it at Coyote Pass.
The difference is that Janelle's independence was accepted. Mary's was punished. Even after showing Cody the house and receiving early approval, just as Christine had when discussing a move back to Utah, Mary was undermined once the decision was real. And let's be clear, everyone knew the purchase was happening. They had the experience. Closings aren't secret. They take time and they follow a process. Janelle, a licensed realtor, understood this better than anyone. Christine, too, had passed the licensing exam. No one should have been surprised.
We can still celebrate the closing. I don't want to miss saying congratulations for the closing.
But when the enthusiasm was underwhelming, it wasn't out of confusion. It was calculated indifference, the kind that sends a message, you're on your own. Because that's what they had all come to learn. Cody wasn't going to be involved in their lives unless it benefited him directly. He expected financial contributions, emotional loyalty, and absolute obedience, but offered no engagement, no emotional investment, and no partnership in return. The only approval he granted was reserved for Robin.
Cody and I don't talk.
So the entire narrative around Mary being selfish for buying Parowan, it wasn't born from reality. It was manufactured, shaped by Cody's resentment, and amplified for convenient storytelling. The same manipulative framing he used when pushing her toward the CP lots, knowing full well there was no real plan for development.
You're not buying this business.
You're not.
Oh, gosh, Cody.
You're just.
We get it.
In the end, the problem wasn't that Mary bought the house. The problem was that she did it without needing Cody. Christine didn't leave a marriage. She escaped a system built to keep her small.
You're either in complying with our standard.
Christine Brown's story is one of emotional labor, misplaced devotion, and a front-row seat to the great polygamist letdown. She entered the marriage at 21, fresh out of a polygamist upbringing, fully bought into the belief system and ready to become the third wife. Not just any wife either.
This home is actually built by a polygamist.
She was polygamist royalty, as Cody so graciously declared. Because of course his ego wouldn't miss an opportunity to marry someone with status. Not for love, not for partnership, but for spiritual bragging rights. She walked into a household already simmering with tension. Mary and Janelle barely tolerated each other, and Christine was immediately expected to play the peacekeeper. At 21, while pregnant, and eventually also holding down a job.
Aspen and McKelty are moving into their apartment today.
That wasn't a marriage. It was conscription into full-time family management with none of the benefits. And while Christine was raising kids, managing chaos, and being the emotional glue,
I like the idea of helping raise my sister wife's kids.
Janelle was singing the praises of polygamy because someone else could raise her children while she worked. That someone was Christine, pregnant, exhausted, unacknowledged, but sure, great system. She didn't have a support system, no girls' nights, no external friendships to lean on. Her primary emotional connections were her own children. So she overshared, relied on them, maybe more than she should have. The older kids have openly said they felt like second parents. Of course they did. When one woman is raising multiple households worth of children practically alone, she turns to whoever's standing closest. The emotional immaturity Christine sometimes shows isn't some mystery. It's the result of decades of self-denial, people-pleasing, and being conditioned to see her own needs as irrelevant. She was groomed for servitude, not self-fulfillment. Then came Robin, the game changer. She entered the picture, demanded time, energy, romance, and resources, and got them. Unlike Christine, she wasn't conditioned to just accept crumbs. She demanded cake, and Cody served it to her on a silver platter.
He would come over like at 5 at night, have dinner with us.
While Christine worked through pregnancies and cared for children who weren't hers, Robin stayed home with a nanny. Not pregnant, not raising anyone else's kids, not contributing to the collective. And somehow she got more love, more attention, more everything. Christine's eyes opened slowly. It wasn't until her children started getting married and being celebrated, respected, consulted, that she realized what she had never been given. Watching daughters like Aspen, Mickelty, and Maddie have weddings where their voices mattered must have been like staring into an alternate universe, one where women mattered in their own love stories. So, when Christine said, "I didn't know a marriage could be that," she meant it. She had no idea that love could come with joy, intimacy, respect, not just sacrifice, silence, and duty. And then there's the resentment. Of course it festered.
Okay, hanging out with you isn't enough for my girl.
While Christine worked 8 months pregnant, Cody was off playing musical chairs with his attention span, and Janelle didn't even stick around to tuck her own kids in at night. Christine was the backbone, and they treated her like the furniture.
I don't have any more to say about it.
Now, she's gone. The big family fantasy crumbled right behind her. Not because she broke it, but because she held it for too long.
I don't want her resenting me all of her life because I wasn't there for her.
And she bloomed the moment she walked away. Because it turns out, when you're no longer being drained dry for everyone else's benefit, you finally get the chance to thrive. Like this? Subscribe and stick around.